And it's time to load it for Consulate in this best of 3. Let's hear you guys. This is it then, Tim. This is what it all comes down to. We had a little bit of smack talk there that you guys wouldn't have seen, but Benja popped up and asked, so which player was Alamau meant to replace on this team again? And Doki was in there saying JV saved himself this tournament. The mental warfare has already begun.
Certainly has. We're going to have our bands beginning as well. Ying will be the first to be put on the sideline for Consulate. Consulate, an interesting map choice as well, obviously mentioned on the desk by Fresh. W7M have banned this out consistently. So, you know, we look at that and you've got two trains of thought. Do they not like playing it, or are they hiding it? Are they keeping hold of it for when they need it? They know that G2 are going to pick it because G2 have put a lot of work into Consulate. They've been, you know, had some great performances there. We've seen it from them. So I get the feeling we're going to have two teams that are more than happy to play on this map. It's going to be Grim that is our second ban.
What's interesting is looking at it historically, W7M would always ban away Ying and Valkyrie against G2. Almost without fail. I think of the maps they played, there were only 2 or 3 cases where those operators weren't banned away and it was map dependent, whereas here, you've got a little bit of a flip. Instead, it's W7M coming out with these spicy bans. The Grim and the Solus coming away here. We've seen G2 run the Mute, the Mozzie, the Solus on Nighthaven in particular throughout the competition. So I think here again, it's just that goal to try and weaken the intel denial game coming out of G2 because it can frustrate these teams. And that final ban, the Valkyrie, some things never changed him. Unsurprising to see that one also being removed from the field.
We're going to be getting into things then. Round 1 is going to be underway very, very soon. Before we do, I just want to give a bit of a shout out to our crowd in Atlanta here as well. I've got to say, yesterday, they were so noisy. I was sat out there for a couple of maps yesterday, and it was very enjoyable. We've had fish being brought along. We've got an extra one. I've seen a clownfish out there today as well.
I honestly think, Tim, I think what's happening after the show is the fish are going away and they're breeding because we just keep on getting more fish every day we come in. It's ridiculous.
That's it. We've got Joel's relative. We've got the clownfish brought along.
Well, what's Joel's relative called? I forgot the name.
I don't know.
No, you've got to make one up. That's the point.
Oh, okay.
Come on, Tim. Where's the synergy, my man? Where's the synergy?
Honestly, I really fumbled on that one.
I'll let you get away with it, though. Love the Azami outfit, by the way. That
Absolutely
is awesome.
All the cosplayers that have been here as well. We've had some, unbelievable, as they always is, every single time. Such a great turnout from that community as well. And they've been absolutely fantastic. But we've got a game to focus on. We're going to be heading in now. It's the action phase. We're going to have our first site, which is Piano. And that is going to mean that G2 are looking to hold on to that top floor.
Onto this ground floor even here, yeah, stepping in as well. Looking at it though, we've still got the Mutant Mozzie on side from G2. I mentioned that Solus ban coming on through and at least reducing the strength of that triple intel denial game that they love playing. It's still going to be really impressive to deal with, but nowhere near as bad for W7M. And I imagine a big part of this goal for them is going to be that top floor control to kick things off. We've seen a lot of DKB online in this tournament. Not seen too much Jackal being paired up alongside it, but with all 3 of those operators lined up, there is going to be so much Roma suppression coming out of this W7M team.
Virtue already coming under heavy pressure, but he's going to win out that first fight. Herds, he's going to be taken down, and that leaves W7M looking to fight from distance, but Uno, he's there to back him up. Uno had a fantastic day yesterday, and he comes in hot, looking to continue that streak.
I thought we might see some top floor control coming in, but instead they've opted to go basement side and work their way up. But so far, they have been utterly refuted by the side of G2. 2 early kills coming in, no basement pressure under their control. You've got Philippok still flirting around Boiler at the minute, playing on the Lion, hoping to push on through. But for W7M in a 3 versus 5, these are the kind of rounds that G2 just don't throw away.
Unlikely. Philippok is going to be heading up those yellow stairs slowly, wanting that slow peek around the corner, see if he can catch anybody out moving. He's actually going to find himself all the way up at the top, but all the way down as Doki puts him down. Nade somehow has managed to wriggle into a position to put this diffuser down, and I'm not sure that G2 were aware that Nitro comes in a little bit late. They're going to have to play the retake, but in a 5 versus 1, you've got to say that JV92's really got his work cut out for him here. Finds the first. Can he find the second? Yes, he can. 1 versus 3. 1 2. JV92. He's on the way, Des.
Well, Benja's at least trying to stick this one out, but he needs the cover to come on through. He'll try and make this all the way through. The vertical is there, and Uno, the angel of death from above, gets the vertical denial. A little bit of a nervy moment there, though. Tim, JV almost completely undoing them.
Yeah, there was certainly a moment there where I think a few G2 hearts will have been in mouths at that point, because that triple kill from JV just really started to spin things on its head. And you just know he's one of those players that really does have the ability to turn around a situation like that and to get it done. Especially, I think G2 maybe just got a little bit excited there. It was a 5v1, the diffuser's down. There was kind of a bit of a rush to get back to site, and they just really did feed into JV92 around yellow stairs. So something to be aware of, but I'm sure that they will be.
G2 I mean, we're focusing on G2 a lot here, but given the start of the game, it's always worth talking about as well. G2 have had a couple of slow starts to maps, or at least series, throughout this entire competition. You think about the classic Romalo timeouts that come in after a couple of rounds and just say, right, boys, chill. Get the communications together, play back in a bit tighter. Fresh did a wonderful telestrator showing their skyscraper approach and just showed how they tightened things up a little bit, and suddenly everything massively improved. So I think the same thing would have come out from G2 here if they found themselves going down a couple of rounds, but they managed to recover that one on their own, got a good setup in the post plant, was a little bit nervous for a second. I honestly think the mute jammer coming through onto that wall that blocked off the Ace Selma, that won it for them. So just that simple act of a mute jammer on that individual wall, for me, made that round doable for G2. Otherwise, I could have seen JV walking away with a 1v5 and a defuse.
We're heading up to the top floor for round 2 then. It's going to be Con's office. Doki is currently quite aggressively holding admin at the minute, and I'm interested to see how W7M deal with this hold that G2 kind of pioneered really around the top of Visa stairs with the shield in behind the vending machine, just holding down to that whole corridor area and making it difficult to push out of admin. W7M are going to have an answer for that, and that's either got to be direct, they've got to have a plan to clear it out, or it's got to be an alternative. It's got to be move in from elsewhere, which it looks at the minute like they might be doing. KZ's going to get underneath in piano, try to use those vertical nades just to ensure that they clear in behind that console desk, and it might just start to open up the windows a little bit for them.
Given the fact they're all positioned on the west side of the map here, there's no pressure coming in towards admin, for example. It feels to me like they want to get in below, get some nades coming up, use the Flores to move players around, and then look for a plant in through window. And sure enough, there's that first nade kill that I was on about. It's Alamal being found out.
Yeah, Herds was the first death last time, but makes amends by picking up the first kill. Nade is in position on the window with diffuser in hand. We actually see him rappel in, but Benja manages to take him down. That's diffuser down cold in sight as well. So W7M, it's all swung for them, and where they were kind of on the front foot, they've been pushed back by G2. 2 important kills. Herds manages to get a second KZ onto Uno, and W7M know they've no diffuser. They know that they just need to find the kills, and boy, do they start finding them.
Need a bit of a clutch here out of Doki, but it's not going to happen. Herds, as we've seen so many times this tournament, just takes control of a round and marches on forward. A good recovery, because that vertical nade play coming in, we saw Felipox use both of them, find absolutely no one. And really that playoff, vertical control, clearing out west side of top floor, getting a plant in through the window was their game plan in that round, and they sort of had to adapt there. So full credit to W7M. Figured out things really well despite the disruption coming out of G2 in the early round, and managed to pull us back to 1 apiece.
I think that's basically the perfect start to Consulate for everybody watching, at least. It's exactly what we wanted to see. 1 round either way, and it really sets us up for the potential of a very close affair here. A back and forth, beautiful kill onto Alamau with the nade to kick things off. And W7M just never really slowed down. The one sort of blip in the plan for them was nade getting in through that window. And G2 dealt with it well and put diffuser down, but W7M sent a bit of a message that, you know, just because you've got the diffuser on the ground, it doesn't mean you're going to come away with the round.
I was curious to see which sites are most popular here, because Split, we very rarely see. We've seen it played 3 times, all tournament long, and it just hasn't been won. That's literally it. 0% win rate, yet G2 have opted to take that slightly different approach here, not starting on the top floor that has been the most popular site, starting on Expo first, then going top floor, then moving across towards this servers and archive split, or servers and tellers split, sorry. So I'm quite keen to see how they approach on the attacking side as well, but it feels like G2 are playing this game of trying to catch W7 out a little bit, go to these different sites, and the beauty of this map is all 4 sites are playable, so you may well see the basement getting picked up in the next round or any of the following 2.
Absolutely that. It looks like W7M for the time being are trying to push into the basement, but they're also paying a little bit of attention to admin. You'd historically have seen them push in vertically, try to, again, get that vertical superiority, but for the time being, it looks like it's going to be quite a direct approach, maybe quite lateral, get themselves into garage, control, long angles, and then drop those hatches to apply pressure into archives from both sides, but they still need to move Alamo for one. He's going to be in a tricky position for them at the top of the stairs there when they try to move through.
Calls coming in quite early on as well, just trying to get early control of the map here, and you can see really for G2 a couple spread out towards the west side of the map that you can see through these outlines, a couple playing up on the ground floor as well. Still good map control being taken, but for Leapox, he's snaking his way through construction. Ultim, I don't think they know that he's here right now.
No, I don't think they've got any idea, and he's got Herds in support as well, who I think is who they are aware of, and Virtue's going to take him down with a Nitro. For Leapox might be left wishing that he'd moved a little bit quicker. He does manage to get that trade there, but Herds was still lost along the way. 4v4, Alamo, he's tucked tight around this corner, and I'm not sure that they're aware. KZ is going to be finished off, which will give him away, and Nade manages to find him through the drone hole.
We love a toe shot or two, Tim. Really good stuff there. These trades going back and forth, both teams trading out players one after the other. Alamo going down is a bit of a stinger because he had those smokes in back pocket. Excellent for the denial, as we know, in the late round, lasting a good while, really forcing the attackers to have to make a risky decision. Whether you're pushing in through smoke or rotating players away, it forces action from the other side. Now, they are inside the site, Tim. Nade's got the shield in hand to make use of here as well. Going to try and stick a plant out on this one. Uno's in a good spot, but didn't know. Philippox is close. Has found himself a double. Nade into yet another. It's a 1v3 yet again, and Benja is forced to drop, and W7M are getting ahead here, Tim, 2-1.
A great setup from W7M there, just got control of site, knew exactly what they needed and basically took nothing extra.
No.
You know, they didn't waste any time or bodies chasing after areas that they just didn't need to get that diffuser down. They knew if they could get Nade tucked in there behind those racks that he'd be able to get that diffuser down under at least a moderate amount of safety. And you could see that as G2 had to filter back into site, they were able to pick them up. They were just running into lines of sight. They never really had a chance in any of those gunfights. So W7M, again, I like what they're doing here. We've seen it 2 rounds in a row. It didn't work out really on console office because Nade got picked up as soon as he went in. They still got the round, but it was based on kills. But W7M have been playing very much objectively here, trying to get themselves in, trying to get that diffuser down, just looking to create the small amount of space that they need to do so.
What I really want to see G2 doing in this round is playing a bit closer together. I mentioned it last time, you had them spread a couple out towards the west. You had a couple playing on first floor. And it just really made things easy for W7M to get their push forwards. And sure, they lost a player or two, but you had someone pushing bottom of E-Box very, very quickly. You had Herds pushing in through Visa. You had Philippox bottom of construction. They've walked into so many good positions around site there, and no one on G2 has really been able to challenge. Sure, they got the first kill, but they've always been responded to with a trade. So W7M was really good paired up play, made sure they were always staying at least even with G2. And again, because G2 was so far off site, it was all too easy to just hit site, take control, and force G2 to come to you.
Yeah, W7M doing a great job so far of just basically disrupting what G2 want to do, and that's by not playing into it. They just have their own game plan. They're just heading straight into site, thinking about that objective, and forcing G2 to be the ones who are reacting to them and what they're doing. So for the time being, they've got most of the runouts covered. The Claymores have gone down. The due diligence has been paid. KZ's going to get himself up onto the top floor, and that's going to leave them with JV92 opening up the closet, reviewing. They are this time looking for that vertical control. They learned the lesson last time in Piano. Uno was able to shut it down from above. W7M, they want to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Yeah, last time it was all about the vertical nades. Doki steps up with the entry in this round at the very least as a starting point, but yet again the trade is there. I love how close we're seeing W7M play together. Just everything is coming down to a 2v1 or making sure they have an answer. Here they pulled themselves ahead as Alamar's been taken down as well. C4 offline. Looking a little bit ropey once again for G2. W7M just looking clinical, like they're on a mission here today, Tim.
Yeah, certainly starting to struggle a little bit, and we've seen the attackers have difficulties on Consulate so far. It's a big map, there's a lot of small rooms, a lot of clearance work needs to be done, so G2 having the defense to begin with need to really be trying to get a few rounds in the bag here and take the pressure off when they are on the attacking side. JV92 is going to take a lot of damage, and Benja is there, steps around the corner and finds himself a nice easy headshot.
Benja absolutely loves playing lobby desk. We've seen him play on Mozzie a few times across the competition where he'll just sit there, wait for all the drones to be exhausted, and then spring up and make his play. It's not quite the same play there, but he's used the explosives as the information as well as damage to know when to swing. Because very fair chance, JV knows he's about to get pushed, he has to get out of there, and sure enough gets to turn back. And now Ben just started moving, just misses the second, makes it a 2K in the round and brings us 2 versus 2. It's Uno and Virtue to hold out against Philippox and KZ.
KZ's going to take a lot of damage there, but the vertical control is starting to hurt G2. They haven't been able to retake above, and it leaves Uno in a 1v2 on site alone as he moves around. He knows that the pressure's there. He just needs to bide his time. He knows that there's going to be an opportunity onto the Ash, but Philippox is getting that diffuser down once again. Uno unable to hit shots here, unable to affect that diffuser. And again, W7M have just been able to focus on that objective and get the round done. As you say, it's going to be very difficult for Uno from here as he steps through. He's going to be shut down by Philippox, and that's W7M taking round 4. It's 3-1.
Like I mentioned, this is probably the time for a timeout, I think, as well. You've 3 rounds lost in a row now for G2 on the defensive side of this map. I mean, fun story as well. So W7M picked to start on the attack. Like, that's crazy. 2 maps in a row, they're going to have to start out on the attacking side here. Sure enough, G2 tack timeout coming on in. I want to see them change here what I mentioned earlier on. I'm hoping Rams caught it as well, is how far apart these players are playing right now. You see constantly, W7M take a gunfight, they lose it, G2 get the entry, there is an immediate response. It isn't happening the same way. Alamau got picked up in the mid-round, no response from G2. And outside of some heroics from Benja, really, they had no chance of getting back into that round. So tighter play, playing off each other. You're giving far too much to W7M here in the gunfights because you're too scared at giving up map control. To concede a bit of ground in favor of playing together, I think is what we've got to see in these next 2 rounds.
Yeah, W7M showing good adaptability as well. The first time that they attacked onto Piano, they tried to move in through the basement. They tried to, work through Yellow Pillar. They got taken down by Virtue. Uno was in support of him. This time they look at it and they say, no, we're going to go for top floor control. We're going to completely sort of flip reverse what we're trying to do on the attack, and it just worked beautifully for them. They did well to get hold of that top floor control, even with only 2 members remaining on side, and it basically won the round out for them as that diffuser went down with good cover. And it leaves G2 now in round 5, smarting a little bit from a 3-1 start, and they're going to be back up onto that top floor. The frost comes along this time for Benja. That's just going to prevent that rappel in through the window being too dynamic, at least, unless that's been taken out.
I think you're going to see nades rifling on through, Flores softening things up before you see the Amaru play coming from KZ here, no doubt with the diffuser in hand, but again, that timeout for me, we've got to see them playing a little bit tighter together. We're not breaking out of the site rotation, though. We've seen first floor, second floor, and then split site in that first quarter. We're so far following that here in the second. Curious to see if we replay the split site going into round 6, but first and foremost, we've got to get through this one. Again, looking towards the DKB that you are going to see basically every round that it's available. Just really helps them sniff things out from below with those nades in the back pocket of Herds, and also, I imagine, helping Philippox get in and clear out some of the utility or force players away from key positions.
G2 at the moment need to get themselves running in this one. We've said, so far they've not lost here. They've gone through win after win. And you just ask how much of G2 been tested up to this point. Is this going to be the real first time that they have their backs against the wall and they're sort of facing that pressure? And can they stand up to it? Alamau, he can't stand up. That's going to be 3 smokes gone as well. Herds taking him down with a big opening kill, and a little bit of all chat going on as well.
Oh, they love it. Every single round end, they've been in all chat, just winding Alamau up as best they can, writing some Portuguese back and forth, but for Alamau there, it's a bit of an ego peak. There's no reason for you to swing that window. Knowing that they've been working off the top of the roof, there's a very fair chance someone's going to be holding that angle, or at least in close proximity. And you stepping out, well, you just pay the price for it. They're down without their smoke yet again. KZ into a second. G2 not playing that tighter gameplay that I mentioned. You've got Doki off towards Spiral. You've got one playing inside of sight. Uno on the Warden. Still really scattered here.
Yeah, very isolated. And it's very much about can you win your individual fights. But when you're coming up against 2-3 players from W7M, those individual fights become extremely difficult. And that's what G2 are seeing at the minute. So the pressure will continue from W7M on the yellow side of the map, trying to get themselves in and around bathroom. KZ able to just rush in on the Amaru here. Uno's just holding tight, preventing that rappel coming in. Doke does manage to pick up KZ. They're going to block off the window. So G2 just battening down the hatches a little bit, but it doesn't matter when JV's going to walk up Spiral, create the space, and W7M grab themselves another round. This one is running away from G2 quickly.
Even when you've got players like Doki pulling off a brilliant play there, you know, the man's got massive gonads. He sits there while the keeper barrier is being beaten on, turns off the mute jammer so you won't get shot by the player coming up yet, or mute jammer. Doki, be cool, sorry. While the player's coming up, maybe pick Clash. That wouldn't be a bad shout because surely it can't go much worse, right? But he turns off the call while the player from yellow rounds the corner. They can't hear him, not quite sure where he is, and he does walk away with a kill. But that's just a small speed bump in W7M, who every gunfight they're stepping into after round one, they have looked unstoppable. And sure, you look at a couple of things like, sure, Alamau shouldn't really be peeking that window and dying so early on the smoke. We shouldn't really be seeing them stepping into these gunfights when they know W7M are going to win them at range. Doki being shot in the back. It is just crumbling down here, and again, it's got to be a bit tighter in team play. Last round of the half, though, Tim, it's going to be down in the basement. Like I said, you can see all 4 sites on this map, and that's exactly what we're getting.
G2 really need this round.
Sorely.
Simple as that. A 5-1 half, I won't quite call it catastrophic. You know, it could always be worse, but a 5-1 half is going to be a very difficult comeback. I mean, don't get me wrong, this has been a major of comebacks. We saw a real attempt from SSG yesterday, which was a fantastic watch, and, you know, who knows, maybe G2 can channel a little bit of that spirit to try and get themselves back into things here, but you just look at it, and if W7M get 5, they only need to be able to lock down one site on the defense. They only need those 2 rounds to be able to close out the first map, which is, of course, G2's map pick, and you just look at it, it's been a permaban for W7M.
It has.
It looks like they've been hiding it. It looks like they've been ready to go.
Hiding it, more to a degree, I imagine, counter-prep against G2. They knew coming into this series that G2 were going to pick Consulate. It's one of their go-to bread-and-butter maps at this point. Didn't start the tournament that way, but has certainly grown into it as we look over history. Now, for them, they can look back at all the games G2 have played and gone, look, we know exactly where the players are going to play. We know what the setups are going to be. We can deal with this. They get one trick off onto the wall, but I imagine at this point, you're going to see a little bit more hesitation coming out of W7M. They need to get this right, because otherwise they're stuck using those 10 openers from Buck to try and get this wall open.
Yeah, just trying to send the nade in. KZ's getting it lined up. He just wants the pressure in behind there. Virtue does manage to avoid it, and he is going to get the second trick. That is big for G2.
Really good play coming out from W7M. Virtue hanging on by the skin of his teeth down here in the basement, but the wall stays closed. That means now Herds has probably got to be the one to step up and get this open if they want it, but also remembering they've got to attack him from server side as well. You need this pinch on this site. They've already got 2 players out towards server. They aren't going to get main breach. That is now a big problem that W7M need to overcome.
There's another problem for them as Doki manages to take down KZ. JV92 is trying to push those Visa stairs. He's trying to move his way through, but G2 are holding tight at the minute. He manages to find Alamau, but this is better from G2. That is the interplay that they need as a team. One goes down, someone's there for the trade. Benja picks it up and then gets himself out of danger. It's 4 versus 3. There's only a minute left on the clock, and W7M now, they've been left scrambling.
They have. Again, you've got to try and piece together an attack here because you can't pull off what you wanted to. You bring a glass specifically to play behind the smokes from the thermite, but you can't get the breach open. You're a little bit screwed in that situation, and you've still got G2 players out roaming around the map. Now, Benja's about to get challenged here. This is a big one to win, and he will win it against Herds. A 4v2, but we almost saw them lose a 1v5, but Benja is not going to miss his shots. It's Philippox all by himself. That 4-2 half for W7M looks all but locked in right now, and sure enough it will be.
Just really needed those moments for G2 there. A 3K for Benja, a double for Doki, and it may well just propel them into that second half. We've said it a few times through this tournament. If you're going to win 1 or 2 rounds on defense on the first half, make sure that one of them is round 6, because you can at least carry that momentum into that second half. G2 move on to the attack, and it might just give them a little bit more freedom at least. On the defense, you've got your setup, you've got your positions to play, and you kind of feel like, yep, you've got to hold on to those, and it's difficult to maybe play fluidly, whereas on the attack, you're problem solving, you're going in there, you can say, right, this isn't working, we're going to move elsewhere, we can change things up, and maybe, just maybe, that is what G2 need.
Maybe, just maybe. They're very good with their attack inside. You hear the devs talking a lot about their prowess on that attack, right? This is where you should see them start to shine. And again, with the fact that W7M chose to come to attacking first on this map, just goes to show that there's definitely something here in these top teams when it comes to attacking into Consulate. Let's get things underway though, starting off here, Tim, on the top floor. pretty much the most standard go-to map on this site on this map. Sorry. G2 obviously tried to mix things up a little bit in that first half, but couldn't quite get the numbers to end what they would call a strong half.
I was interested to see whether we would see the Amaru with Sin Alamau make use of that on Consulate a couple of times. It's not going to be for this site. Instead, bringing along the Zero. So good, a great operator really, and a little bit underused sometimes. I think he's got that hard breach. He's got information utility in terms of his cameras. There's all sorts going that he can bring to the table, and that's going to be a down onto Nade. Benja unlikely to know at this point, unless that's picked up on a drone. He's just trying to spray through. I think that gives them a good idea that there's something going on above them.
They look a little bit nervous going for this as well, but they managed to get away with it. I was going to remark, we've got Jaeger and Wamai on side, but G2 are absolute vertical nade merchants. They love this. I speak about the stat line all the time, but Benja double the second place number of explosive utility kills back at SI. And Doki said, I said this to Doki yesterday, and he was like, but I get a lot as well. And I'm like, okay, fair enough then. And they're doing that just now, Tim. So bring Jaeger and Wamai all you like. G2 love their vertical nades. You are not going to be expecting them to go laterally. And so far, they found that down, turned it into a kill off the back of it. And Doki is still going fishing.
It just gives you a good idea as to the information that they're getting above as well, because they have such a good read on where these players are. KZ is going to be able to pick up Benja, leaving us 4 versus 4. Nearly halfway through the round now. G2 just need to be thinking about what control they've gained as well. Yes, they've been able to use those vertical nades. Yes, they've been able to do a bit of damage and get an opening kill. But what have they done in terms of map control? If it comes to the point where it's time to put that diffuser down, right now, they wouldn't be able to.
The square between Herds and Virtue here as well. Who moves first really is this big question. And that'll be the fight, I think, over that east side of the map, on top floor. Virtue pushing in off the back of it now. Doki also working his way up Spiral. They're trying to push in at the same time here and make this work, but just not really coming to fruition yet.
No, W7M proving to be a bit of a brick wall on the defence here, not really allowing G2 any space. Like I say, no real control of site itself at this moment in time with any view to getting the diffuser down. Doki's just sort of roaming around underneath, thinking where it is going to be best to pop up and strike. But with 50 seconds left to go, he's going to have to make a decision sooner rather than later.
Well, he tried Spiral and got blocked there, so he's moved his way over towards Yellow now. So G2 are trying to poke holes in this defence, find the right way through. But here comes Herds at the backside, and Doki, can he spin and win the fight? Doki manages to find the kill. There's still one more top stairs, though. G2 are still in a 2 versus 3. W7M remain on top.
W7M might have the lead, but they can't be giving G2 opportunities like that. KZ going to take a lot of damage through the soft wall there, but Virtue
gotta go.
Can't find the kill. 20 seconds in G2. They have no option here. Virtue, Doki, you got to move, you got to go, you got to find these kills. Pops up from behind the long dash. JV92, he gets the first, taking down Doki, and there's the second onto Virtue. And W7M, they hold on, and they show us that they are going to be very difficult to move on these defences.
Always regarded as a team with a very wide map pool. At this point, you're probably adding one more to it. Consulate being that permaban through all of Stage 2, through all of this tournament, and showing, my God, can they play it? Schooling G2 on this map so far. Attack, defense, they don't really seem to care, Tim. And that really sets up for a pretty exciting map too when it comes round to it, because, well, exciting if you're a W7M fan anyway. It feels like at this point the momentum is so strongly with them that we're going to have to see something really magic come out in the break between these two maps.
Going to be heading into round 8 then. G2 going to be looking to reset a little bit after that. They had some good progress to begin with. They got themselves underneath. They obviously had a lot of information. The vertical nades were kind of working for them. They got a kill. They were able to follow up on that down as well. And it felt like there was something going, but then as soon as it came to moving on to the top floor, they just weren't able to dislodge whatsoever. There was no attention given from G2 really over towards the admin side, and W7M were just able to use that as the wall to brace themselves against, to push back from the onslaught that was coming from Spiral and Yellow.
It's another one of those rounds that I look at when I touched on Doki playing in bathroom earlier. Had some really good micro play around the keeper barrier, around the decay cool coming in. You've seen it again in that moment. He's won a really good gunfight. But these things happening in isolation in a round are never going to be enough to win when W7M are just trouncing you in every other category. When it comes round to positioning, when it comes round to gunfights, when it comes round to information, they're just on top in every other way. And G2, they're getting a bit desperate here because that shield is coming out. They want to try and make this work, but it does require getting in through the breach first and foremost. Nade almost losing his life there from the long shot.
Yep, definitely needs to be careful now. He's going to block up that for the time being, but the breach is open and will likely be followed up on, and we'll see that keeper barricade will be cleared out. Nitro goes out. W7M maybe just looking a little bit rattled here as everything's getting thrown at this to see what sticks, but I'll tell you what sticks, a double kill from JV and Philippox. They take down Benja and Alamo, and that's going to be a big loss for G2. You've got Uno on side, and the more people that you lose along the way, the sort of less useful that Monty becomes.
So frustrating. Again, they've tried to make a push in here and lost 2. It was exactly the same as W7M on their pushing towards in trying to get the breach open earlier on. Look, sorry, in round 1 when they tried to move their way through basement, they lost 2 players very early. The same thing has been undone to G2 here. And you just kind of sat there staring, well, what do we do now? We've lost 2 players. This is such a hard situation to come back from, and W7M have still got 2 C4s in back pocket to play behind. Virtue gets 1, but at this point, it feels like more of a consolation kill. Yet again, W7M are there with the trade, and it's all on Doki to clutch up big. And it's simply not going to happen.
KZ going to close him down, and it just really doesn't matter what questions G2 try to pose here on Consulate. W7M just have the answer every single time. Even at the beginning of the round there, I said it looked like W7M were just a little bit shaky, a little bit, right? You know, you had that damage done immediately to the Azami, you had JV sort of throwing that Nitro out and just trying to get something going. He obviously felt he was being pushed maybe a little bit harder than he was, but yeah, W7M again just managed to steady things and just say, yep, that's fine, we'll wait for the gunfights to come. And they just, that's the big thing for me. They're just winning almost every single gunfight.
Herds just will not stop giving Alamo stick. After every single round, he's in chat, and here he's just walked in and said, look at you, you're 1-8 basically. It has been a rough map for Alamo. We spoke about the swings, the early deaths on the smoke, for example. The IGL for G2 are currently missing a little bit, and they really need to find him before we get into that second map.
G2, no more mistakes. It's 6-2, and they've got 4 rounds to find back-to-back, and with the way things have gone at the minute, it's difficult to see where they're likely to come from, Des. W7M, they're just taking us on a tour of Consulate at this point. They move from Garage over to the other half-basement site. They're going to move over to servers on the backside of the map, so much the same from them, likely. They'll probably try to hold on around Yellow Pillar. They've got Philippox on the pulse over there. He's going to feed the information in for any push that's coming from that side of the map. There's not too much of a top floor presence at the minute. There is KZ, I think it is, no, it's JV92, sorry, up on the top floor on the castle. He does have the Oryx that can get up there quite quickly to support as well, but it might be an opportunity for G2 to get themselves established in the map.
Key difference here to G2's defense coming out is the pulse of Philippox. They're still playing very similar positions otherwise. You've even got Nade playing up where Alamo was on the smoke previously. Really trying to force their way through here. So Nade has got to be careful, all of them trying to work their way in. But for me, Pulse playing in the middle of this team can just feed information on any pulse or any pushes that come on through, let the team know when they've got to rotate resource around. That information game was what was missing for G2 on their defense, but W7M have plugged that gap.
Just very conscious still, G2, of the potential for aggression coming out of W7M here, because they've got the opportunity. They've got 4 rounds in hand, so they can sort of roll the dice a little bit, and that makes this even more difficult for G2 to play, because W7M can just get even more unpredictable. They can take those little risks, but for the time being, G2 have got themselves into a good spot here. They can start opening up that wall that's going to give them a long angle through into sight. He's just trying to prevent that, but they need to be careful. Those holes work both ways, and W7M have been picking up every opportunity that's been presented to them so far.
This attack is so tight coming out of G2. Everyone boxing in towards server except Benja, who's playing a bit of distraction, a little bit of backstab on the other side. This feels like a classic Siege Execute potentially building up. Hertz is going to find one. Benja getting his kill elsewhere on the map. The problem is, Tim, this is one of their site players going down here as well. This is the execute focused gun they need. And really here, they're looking for crossfires to protect Uno on that push in. They've got no smokes to play behind, for example. Everything is going to be off this Monty getting into a strong position and a plant probably going down behind him.
This is it, and at the moment, it just doesn't seem like G2 have had that sort of look realistically. Uno just again dancing around that door, like you say, maybe just not supported enough to be able to get into sight. And with only 50 seconds left to go, there's work that needs to be done. There's hatches that can't be opened because they're electrified. There's, you know, so much stacking up against G2 here that it's going to be a very tough finish to the round. Herds, he's got that Nitro place. If he hears that castle barricade knocked, he would have gone, but no, instead he's going to give himself an option to get onto the flank.
They're transitioning towards the ground floor hit, I think, here. They've abandoned on the downstairs, but it's a bait, because Uno's still coming in through server. All attention has been pulled upwards. Uno, if he goes down here, it's over.
It's Alamo, he's going to be taken out with a nitro from below. It's 2 versus 2, 15 seconds left to go. And Uno, he's going to have to find a position to get a plant down. He drops the shield to offer some sort of fleeting protection as that diffuser goes down.
Nade's
Will
going.
it be stuck? Benja needs to get through here on the cover. Nade manages to close it out, and surely that is the end of Conceal at W7M in quick fashion. Come in and send a huge message to G2.
Wow, W7M, they want that second try.